have fun, live, enjoy yourself, enjoy where you are, be in the moment, don't stress, don't focus so much on where you think you should be. Just worry about where you're going and accept what is. That's a huge lesson that I learned in my 20s. By 25, you're supposed to be married, you're supposed to have kids, you're supposed to be established. And we don't talk about it enough, but your 20s is definitely like, it's a really important time. You don't realize it until you are kind of like at a point where I am, where I'm like transitioning from my 20s into my 30s. The more and more it like comes, I'm like, oh shoot, like, you know, it's here, like there's no going back. Today's video, you guys, is going to be inspired by just my own thoughts. I was taking a shower earlier and I was just kind of in the shower reflecting on my life in my 20s and what it's been like for me, and I thought that it would be a good time for me to just go ahead and make this video. I'm going to just be doing my makeup because I'm going to be doing some other content later on, so I'm going to just be giving my advice, things that I've learned, my advice, regrets even. Like, I know everybody loves to talk about like, oh, I don't have any regrets, like nothing there, you shouldn't have any regrets, and you're gonna have regrets. It's okay. Even if you don't, it's fine, but I'm here to tell you that it's completely normal if you do have regrets. Like, it's okay. So I'm going to be talking about advice, things that I've learned, regrets, and things that I just wish I would have done a little bit differently. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get into it. If you guys are new here, make sure you definitely go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Thumbs up this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm just going to be definitely just highlighting the main things of my 20s. I'm going to first just start off with just a brief overview of a little bit about me, because I do realize like I have a lot of new people who are following me or new here. So I mean, you guys definitely be watching like my vlogs and stuff, so you probably know my day-to-day life, but more so like about my like background, more about me as a person, stuff like that. For those who don't know, I feel like if you watched my video where I was talking about like my ex and how he broke my heart and everything, I did kind of give a little bit of background on me and just whatever. I started doing YouTube when I want to say it was only 3 years ago. It's only been 3 years, but I had always wanted to do it. I wanted to start ever since 2013, 2014 was when I knew I wanted to start doing YouTube videos. And so I didn't start, and you know why I didn't start? I didn't start because I felt like at that time, it's even crazy because I feel like even now, like it's even more hard to start because of where the advancement of technology, the advancement of social media, the advancement of like just everybody having access to you on the internet. So things that have stopped me or kind of like prolonged and delayed the process were me not feeling like I had all of my equipment and all of my tools and everything like that. So I kind of let that like stop me in a way, like it delayed me in a way, because I was like, I don't have a mic, I don't have a backdrop, like I don't have like all of these lighting and all of these like little tools and things that I feel like I need to start this YouTube channel. Like I don't have all of that at this time. Let's just fast forward to like my 20, starting off age 20. This is like, we're starting from age 20 all the way up until 29 from where I am now. When I was 20, that's when I got my first job at Mac. I started working at Mac when I was 20, and I came from working with Bare Minerals. I was working at Bare Minerals at first, and then I started working at Mac. And I started off at Mac in 2014, and I was actually a freelance artist. So I was so hyped. I was so excited. Like I just remember like this being a huge moment for me. Don't ask me how I ended up applying. I don't really remember. I don't remember like the application process. However, I do remember the hiring process. The hiring process was crazy. And I remember because everybody had always talked about like how intimidating the actual hiring process was for working at Mac. And so it made me like hella scared. I was like, dang, like I feel like if I was to make it through, I was going to be like a VIP person, because it was almost kind of like you either make it or you don't, you know? I mean, that's with any job, but people always just was like the whole process of working for Mac and going, the hiring process itself was always very intimidating for people. So I just always remember that, and I just was like, whoa. So basically I ended up applying. I applied, and I want to say it took me like a good 6 months but to actually get in my foot in the door with Mac. I remember I applied. I want to say, yeah, I applied. I got the call. Well, I didn't get a call. I got an email. I got an email about working there, started working there. Well, got the email, and then they told me like where I needed to go. I got the email for like the actual interview process. I learned that it was going to be an interview process that I would have to go through, and after the initial interview process was going to be a group setting, like a group interview type of thing, and then after the group interview you would go on, if you made it to the second part of like the hiring process, then you would go into a whole other like interview process where it will start to get a little bit harder. So went there. I remember I was just like so scared. I was looking up all these different videos like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? Like how do I look? How do I prepare for a Mac interview? Like I just remember doing that. This is age 20, mind you. So my makeup is not nowhere where it is now. I look crazy. I'm, you know, at that time I'm wearing like all these different colors, and you know, you think like, you gotta think like back in 2014, what did our makeup look like? What did beauty in 2014 look like for us? It was crazy. I don't know what trends we were doing. We were doing boxy eyebrows. We was just looking crazy. I ended up getting the job. I'm not gonna, if you guys want to see a different video, I could talk about like my actual ongoing process for me working there, and yeah, because that can be a whole other separate video. So comment and let me know if y'all are interested in that. But I started working at Mac when I was 20, and from there I was literally like fresh out of cosmetology school, and so from there I was just still like, my feet was just getting wet at this time, like with the beauty industry. Like everything was just so fresh and new and exciting, and I was just like ready to soak it all up like a sponge. I remember at that time just really just grinding. I was in grind mode. Like I was just really trying to like network. I was so excited. I had got my foot in the door with Mac, and I was just like, wow, like this is just such a great experience, especially starting off my 20s. I was like, wow, I'm excited. I'm just like, oh my god. And you don't realize it, but once you start working for a big company like Mac, you have now like opened up a door for endless possibilities. Like you can go down so many other routes once you start working for a company like that. Like possibilities are endless. You don't have to stay there. Like you can just elevate and continue to grow and do other things. That was one of the reasons why I attended Aveda, is because I knew like the name. People, and it's just like Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder, people think of Estee Lauder, they think like, oh, Estee Lauder. Like you don't realize it now, but Estee Lauder is like, they're much more bigger than like the companies, the brands that you see underneath of them, because they are like, they own those companies. The pressure was really, really on, but like I said, I can do a separate video on that if you guys are interested in knowing like about like my actual experience, my work experience working at Mac, because like I said, I started working there when I was 20. It was cool. It was like everything just kind of like went by so fast though. And so yeah, I just remember around that time, like my early 20s, y'all, the early 20s are so like, at the same time, like I feel like we have the most pressure. There's the most pressure on you in your early 20s, and it's so hard for you to enjoy the early 20s because you're so young, but you put all this pressure on you to be so much more and to be like, it's crazy. Like, but when I think about it and I look back and just reflect on like my early 20s, it was the best time of my life. It was the best time of my life, but what I wish I would have done differently was use that time more wisely. You don't realize like you only have so much time. I feel like there's just so much pressure on you, like especially around that time in your early 20s. You're like, you're fresh out of school, you're like entry level into your profession, so you really don't know. You may have an idea of what it is you want to do, but you're not 100% sure if that's what you're actually going to do. Like 9 times out of 10, I feel like you really don't know like if this is what you're actually going to be doing. Like, but for me, like I knew like I love doing makeup and I love doing hair, and I knew that this was what I wanted to do then. But I just felt like so much pressure. I don't know why. It's just like you feel all this pressure to be successful. You feel all this pressure to have all of these answers at such a young age, when you just really, you should just be enjoying it. You should just be enjoying it. You should be learning. You should be you know, just figuring out like life. Like, you're so young, there's no need to just put all this pressure on you. So, and I'm speaking now from where I am now, but I felt like that's something that I wish I would have kind of like have done differently, was not put so much pressure on myself at that age to have everything figured out, to know what I wanted to do, to, you know, like, and people say that, like, people say like, oh, like, you're so young, and I know that, like, I knew that at that time, like, even with me like working at Mac and working at like salons and stuff, like, I was always around people of many different age groups. So when I would have conversations with people about like life and stuff or whatever, they would always be like, oh, you're so young, like, and I hated hearing that, because it's like, yes, I am, but that don't mean nothing. Like, I gotta have this figured out. So I just felt like we just put so much pressure on ourselves to know and figure out, like, dang, like, and having an older person maybe in their 30s or even early 20s, like, even early 20s, I remember people just being like, girl, like, you're so young, like, have fun, like, enjoy yourself, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, try different stuff to figure out like what it is you want to do, but don't put that pressure on you of feeling like you have to know what it is that you are wanting to do, because it could change. It could change so many other times, and you just like, you don't want to put that pressure on you. It's all for nothing. And I remember having those conversations with people who were older than me, and they were always saying like, stop putting that pressure on you. Like, stop, just enjoy where you are. Don't rush. Like, don't rush. Don't feel like you have to be married by a specific age. Don't feel like you have to, because there's people who change freaking career paths at like 40. And so it's just like, when you think about it, you're just like, yeah, I should actually be enjoying this time. So that's one thing I just feel like I do. I wish I kind of would have done differently, was just enjoy my time in my early 20s, and like not have put so much pressure on myself to kind of like have everything figured out and figure out like what it is that I should be doing or I want to do. Or kind of wish, honestly, y'all, like, just a moment of truth, I'm being just completely honest right now, I wish that I would have enjoyed my early 20s more. I wish that I would have gotten out more. I wish I would have traveled way more. And although travel is not cheap, it's not like you have to have money, because I feel like in my early 20s, I didn't have like, I mean, like, we had money, and honestly, I was making good money for my age, especially working at Mac. Like, I was making good money to the point where I could, you know, if I wanted to, I could definitely do more if I wanted to. I've always been good with managing like my money, paying my bills, like establishing my credit and all of that good stuff. But I just kind of wish like I would have just had a little bit more fun. If you don't take anything away from this, live in the moment, not put so much pressure on ourselves. And also, I wish that I would not have compared myself so much to other people who are doing what it is that I wanted to do. Because I think that's another thing, like, people, we constantly are comparing ourselves to people who have been doing what we want to do for years and years, and we haven't even started it. We know we want to do something, and we look up to the people who are doing it, and so we feel like we kind of get intimidated because we feel like, oh my God, they're so good at it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, of course they're going to be good at it. They've been doing this for years and years, and we haven't even started it, or we're just getting started. So why put that pressure on you? I feel like I wish that I would have done things a little bit differently when it comes to like my career path. And because now I look back and I am still in the beauty industry, I am still doing exactly everything that I wanted to be doing, I'm doing it. Everything that I did or I said that I wanted to do, literally, like, everything that I've said I wanted to do, I have done it in my 20s. I've done it. And that is something that I'm very happy and excited about. Like, a lot of people can't say that they've done everything that they wanted to do in their 20s. Like you said, goals for yourself. You know there's things that you want to do, but you don't always do it, or things happen, you know, life happens, whatever. But literally, there's not anything that I can honestly say that, like, there's nothing that I've said that I wanted to do that I haven't done. And so that's something that's a huge win in my book. That's a huge win, because I'm like, dang, like, you winning. You may not be where you want to be, but you've done everything that you said you want to do. That's goals. With that being said, another thing that I kind of like regret per se, because you guys, I am going to be honest with you, I have quite a few regrets, which I will talk about throughout the course of this video. It's just a moment for me to just be completely like transparent, open, because I think a lot of people have like a perception of people in their lives, especially people who are like into social media and stuff, and just like influencers and content creators and stuff like that. So, you know, with me telling you guys like I wanted to do YouTube, I knew I wanted to do YouTube, I knew I wanted to be a makeup artist, I knew I wanted to do hair, I knew all of these things. One of my biggest regrets, you guys, one of my biggest regrets is not starting sooner. Is not starting sooner. I told you how I wanted to start doing YouTube like ever since 2014. My only issue with that was I did not start sooner. And it honestly, I think that I get why people say that they have regrets, because a lot of things, like everything happens when it's supposed to. Everything happens in its time. And I get that. But at the same time, you can control what you can control. So if you know you want to do something and you don't have all the things that you know you may need, or like such as starting a business, or you know, working on a project, going to school, don't let little things like what you don't have stop you, because you're gonna wish that you had started sooner. Those are things that you really can't control, and so I feel like you shouldn't allow that to stop you or delay you from starting something or doing something that you know you want to do. Those things will come as you go, but you can't allow it to stop you or delay your process. You can't think like, oh, I'm gonna start when I get this, or I'm gonna start when I have this amount of money, or I'm gonna do this when I move here, when I do this, when the kids get this age. No, because that is one of my biggest regrets, is starting later. Had I started when I knew I wanted to, I feel like I would be flourishing. And not to say I'm not now, but I think that I would be a lot further than where I am. And so knowing that, I do feel like, dang, that's a lesson learned. I learned a lesson there. And I learned that, like, don't. If you know you want to do something, you know, do what you can with what you can and what you have, but don't not do anything, because you're gonna regret it and that you're wasting time. So that's the only thing with that. Like, that's a huge lesson that I learned in my 20s, was just start where you are, start with what you have, start with where you are, whatever circumstances you are in. Like, just start. Don't let that stop you. Don't allow where you are, what is going on around you, don't let that stop you from like doing what it is you know you want to do. Start with what you have, start where you are, and just go from there. Everything else is gonna come. Like, I believe in God, and I know that, like, if you work hard, God blesses you. God blesses you. Like, if you work hard, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like, you're doing, you know, whatever it is that you're doing. I don't know. We all have our own life purpose. We all have our own things that we are working towards and stuff like that. But no matter what, God blesses those. He blesses hard work. And it says it in the Bible, whether you're a believer or not. So it's like, it's gonna come. Trust me, it's gonna come. It's gonna come. So it's not something like, I just don't wait. Don't prolong it. Don't think that you need all of these things in order to get started. Because honestly, you're not hurting anybody but yourself. Like, and that's why I say that I regret not starting sooner. Like, I wanted to start 2014. I didn't start YouTube until 2019. So that's 4 years later, where I could have been like getting into it, starting it, making mistakes. But that's 4 years later that I then had to wait, and that I delayed my own progress because I was scared. I didn't feel like I had the things that I needed. I didn't feel like, you know, like I didn't feel like I was ready, or, you know. So, and then another thing I would just say, like, don't, especially like in your 20s, like your 20s period, but especially your early 20s, you guys. I'm assuming you clicked on this video because you can relate in some way, obviously, and so you kind of just want to know. But I would definitely say, don't compare yourself. Don't compare your journey to other people's. Don't compare your progress to anybody else's. Don't compare your path to anybody. Don't compare, like, don't do it. It's like, comparison is the thief of joy, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of all joy. Like, you comparing yourself is not, you just don't do it. It's a never ending like rabbit hole. And I just think that like we are constantly like comparing ourselves, especially now more than ever. And I feel like it's because of social media. So I feel like social media causes us to kind of like compare ourselves, compare our path, and especially because there's a lot of people doing what we know we want to be doing, but we're not for some reason. So I feel like we get into this rabbit hole of like constantly comparing ourselves because we see people doing what it is that we know we want to do or what we should be doing. And so because we're not, we compare ourselves like, oh, I won't ever be able to do this because she's doing this and I'm not as good as her, or I can't do it like her. And it's just like, we're not all the same. Another thing that I feel like I learned in my 20s was the people who with you now may not be with you tomorrow. Just because they riding with you don't mean they riding for you. And that, you guys, is one of the biggest lessons that I have learned in my 20s is like people, friends, friendships, relationships, whatever, like just because they're here with you, that does not mean that they are riding for you. They riding with you. They're there one day, they may not be there the next day. And I'm not saying like you can't trust anybody, like that's not the message that I'm giving, but I'm just saying like just because you got people who are around you, they don't mean like everybody who is around you is really for you. Like they may not be your true friends, they may not, like some people, and I've realized this a lot, but like I learned like just because people are around you, just because people like you with somebody every single day, or you know, I mean at this big age you shouldn't be with somebody every single day, but I don't know what your situation is. Like you may see people at work and think that they're your friends, or you may be around people a lot. So I mean as humans we kind of get comfortable with people, and you know you don't want to have a cold heart, but at the same time it's good to recognize like the people who are truly like there for you and the people who are just there for a season. Like you got to know the difference. You have to know the difference between people who are literally like y'all are crossing paths for a season and that's it. It's nothing more. It's like you got to know the difference, because and sometimes, most times, you won't even be able to tell. You don't know until time goes on. You don't know certain things. You don't know where you stand with people until you are in situations where you need people the most and they're not there for you. Or like me, you don't know who really there for you until you move. Till you move across the state, move across the country. You're no longer you're no longer in the same region or the same area as people. You're no longer in reach with certain people, certain relationships. You start to realize who's really there for you and who really isn't. You start to realize who's really your friend and who really is not, or never was a friend, or who you have to kind of constantly extend yourself to have a relationship with. You realize a lot. Like in my situation, that you don't move out of the country or out of the state or whatever, you will know who your real friends are through tough times, through when your circumstances change. Say you got a car and you always are like that person that people can call and you will help them out whenever you can, and then your circumstances change, you get in a car accident or something happens where you no longer have your car, and then you're no longer that person that people can kind of go to for a ride or for you to help them get to where they need to go, and then you just stop hearing from them and you're like, wait a minute, like besides the car rides I thought we was cool. But then you realize like, oh no, we were only cool when I had a car. So that's what I'm saying. Like you realize certain things, and not even just that. Sometimes it could be deeper. For me, I learned more of like emotional level. I have my best friend who has been my best friend since 5th, 6th grade, and no, that's another person. Me and her became besties like 8th grade, 9th grade, like ever since like before high school type thing. And she's the person I call on every day, even to like today. Like if something were to happen, like I'm having a meltdown or life is real, like she's that person who I am going to call. As you get older, you realize like it's okay to not have like a big group of people, and your circle is going to shrink tremendously. Your circle is going to shrink. Like, if it don't, then you doing something wrong. I'm just being honest. If your circle don't shrink by age, like honestly 23, 24, then you might need to like do like some self-evaluation, to be quite honest. Your circle is going to shrink. People who was there for you are no longer going to be there for you. You're going to lose friends. You're going to fall out of touch with people. You're, in like my case, I realized who was there for me based off of like emotional needs, not even physical, because it's something in my eye. Ew. Not even physical, but more so emotional. Like, when I just be going through stuff and I just want to be able to call people and vent, or call people and just be like, girl, like, can we go out somewhere, and can I just like, can we just go to lunch, and can I just chat with you and talk to you, because I just need to like really get this out. And you realize like you don't have that from certain people, like that's when you start to realize like who your real friends and stuff, and like who really is for you, who really isn't. And this not only goes for friends, you guys, this is also, I'm also referring to family as well, because you realize like that's another thing I've learned. Like, from where my early 20s to now, I can honestly say like, just because we family, just because we blood don't make you family. And that's another huge lesson that I have honestly learned in my 20s, is like, blood does not make you family. We could be closer than close. We could be sisters, brothers, cousins. We could have grown up together our whole life, and we call each other like sisters, brothers, whatever. And that don't make you family. You know, blood does not make you family. I have friends who I consider family, and family who I consider strangers. So it's like, just because we blood, it don't mean we family. And you realize that as time goes on through life as well, like, people who you consider to be family, they not really family. They're just, y'all just maybe related, or y'all may just know each other or whatever. You realize like family can be your worst enemy, honestly. And it's crazy because it's like, they can be your worst enemies. They can be the people who tear you down the most. They can be the people who don't support you. They can be the people, like, literally, it's so crazy to think that, but it's literally the way it is. Not all families, but some, and most. If you want to test this, start a business. Start a business. Then you will understand. If you start a business, you will understand exactly what I'm saying. You'll see the people who really support you, who really stand by you, who are really happy for you, who really, really want to see you go far, and really want to see you do well. Like, start a business. That's all I'm gonna say. Honestly, you learn a lot of lessons. Sometimes these are things that you already like hear. Like, I know my mom, my grandmother will always say like, everybody who grins in your face, they're not really your friend. And I would just be like, okay, grandma, like, all right, got it. Like, and when you're at that age, like, you don't want to hear that. Like, but then when you start to experience it, you're like, oh yeah, like, yeah, what she was saying was actually facts. Like, there's no reason for her to lie. She's only saying what she knows is true, and you don't realize it then. You don't know what she's talking about, but then you realize it once it comes. And it kind of hurts losing people. I think that was like one of my biggest lessons in my 20s, is losing people, or starting off, or even just coming to the understanding that like, dang, like, this person, I thought we were going to be cool forever, or I thought we were going to be friends for a long time. I thought I was going to be in that relationship for a while. And just being able to accept the fact, like, what is and what life throws at you, and who reveals themselves. Once people reveal who they really are, bro, believe them, and don't try to change what is. Like, just accept it and move on. And sometimes it sounds easier than what it is. Like, it's easier said than done. But sometimes you just have to really like accept what is and move on, and you can't change who people are. You can't try to force people to be something or someone that they're not, just because you don't want them to leave. Don't do that. Which brings me to like my next, not necessarily a regret, but something I learned. Definitely something else that I can say that I learned. And I don't want to say this. because not everybody's path is the same. Some people, you find the love of your life at like a young age. You may find the love of your life, and I'm doing my makeup real crazy because I'm on camera right now, but y'all, listen. Just listen to what I'm saying. Don't watch my makeup, just listen to me. But I'm saying this from my own experience, and I'm not saying this like this is everybody's like experience. Like, I'm not saying it like this is, I'm talking, everything that I'm saying in this video is from my own personal experience, journey, perspective, like me. This is only for me. But I am taking the time to share this because others can relate to it. Okay? It's kind of crazy how it worked out, but like I got in a relationship when I was in my younger 20s, like 20, huh, 19, 20, 22. 22. I think I got my one of my serious relationships, 22. You know, y'all know the first serious relationship. Took a break, blah, 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 blah. Got on my grind. Then came across another situation where it was a little bit more serious, and it was with somebody who we've been friends for like ever since I was like 19 type of thing. 17, ever since I was 17. So yeah, basically, like, if you are in a relationship at a young age, oh my god, I don't have no water. If you are in a relationship at a young age, to not allow that, like, I don't want this to sound bad, but what I'm trying to say is, like, if you have goals, and you will, because you're in your early 20s, like, you're gonna have goals, you're gonna have things that you want to do, you're gonna be like working towards stuff, you know, we like, hello. If you know that this is like what you really want to do, don't let anybody, and I do mean anybody, stop you, delay you, keep you from doing what it is that you know you want to do. I can say for me, and y'all, if you watch my video where I was talking about moving to LA, I talked about my experience and why it took me so long. Like, I knew I wanted to move to LA, and I knew I wanted to move to LA ever since I was like 22, 23. Like, early on, I knew I wanted to move to LA. But I wasn't moving because I was in a relationship. That was one of the reasons. And I knew I wasn't moving because I was in a relationship. And I'm looking back at it, y'all, it's not a regret. It's not, because everything happens for a reason. I was not ready at that time. Had I went then, I would not have been ready and prepared for everything that I dealt with while I moved out here. Like, I would not have been prepared financially, mentally. I would not have been prepared or ready for a move like this. So I'm glad that, like, I was in a relationship, and I'm glad that I kind of used that as a way for me to be like, no, I'm gonna wait, like, or I'm not gonna go just now. Timing is everything. And I'm learning that even more now than ever. Like, timing is literally, like, timing can make or break any and everything that you decide to do in your life. Like, it can make or break it. It can make or break it. And I'm glad now that I honestly was in the relationship where I decided that I wasn't gonna move, or I thought that I was scared. I was also scared. Like, I was just like, oh, I want to move to LA. I'm scared though, and I'm in a relationship, and I don't know, you know. So it's kind of good that it worked out like that, because I would not have been prepared. I would have went home a long time ago. I would not have lasted 3 years. I would not have been able to go through and deal with everything that I did while I was here had I moved then when I thought I wanted to. So, but I'm also saying that to say, know when the right time is. If it's not the right time, don't try to force it. Don't try to force anything. Like, just flow. Don't try to force it. Don't try to make it, like, if it's not meant to be, it's not going to work out, and you're going to be upset that you did try to force it. So I'm glad that I didn't go when I thought that I was ready, which was 22, 23, when I first got the idea that I wanted to move to LA. I just didn't know when. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I wasn't mature enough to be able to take on a responsibility like that. And so I'm glad that I didn't. I'm glad that my circumstances weren't aligned for me at that time. And I only know that because now I'm looking back at it and I'm like, wow, had I went through this at that age, it would have destroyed me. Everything that I went through, it would have destroyed me had I not been ready for it, had it not been the right time. So that's another huge lesson, even now, not even my early 20s, but even now that I've learned, like, timing is legit everything, and it can make or break whatever it is that you're trying to do if it's not the right time. It could be the right person, wrong time, right job, wrong time, right idea, wrong time, wrong season. It's just not the time, so you can't force it. So I'm honestly glad that I didn't move when I thought that I was ready. Speaking of timing, right, timing is a pivotal thing that we all, it's a lesson that I'm learning a lot about even now. Like, I'm learning a lot about just timing and just accepting things for what is. When it's not the right time, y'all, it's not the right time. And that's something I'm learning even now, but it's been my biggest lesson in my 20s, is just being patient, waiting for things, waiting for the right time to happen for certain things that I think that I'm ready for. Which brings me to another experience in my 20s that I haven't really talked about a lot, but it's something that stands out in my 20s. And so I wouldn't be me, I wouldn't be where I am. We are who we are because of our experiences. We are who we are because of what we've been through, because it has helped shape us into who we are and who we are becoming. We are our experiences, our lessons, our memories. We are all of that. We are everything. Everything that we are is because of where we have been, what we've gone through. I'm not going to say that this is a regret, because I'm learning now that this was something that had to happen, and if it did not happen, my whole life would be different now. But I can't say that I've completely healed from it. However, I can definitely say that I have accepted it. I've accepted it. There's times where I have moments where I do think about it, and I think about, like, why and what if, had I not did that, would I be, I just think about all the time, like, what if I didn't do that? Or had I not did that, would I be where I want to be? Or would I be doing what I want to do? And I always have kind of like thoughts of, like, was that the right thing for me to do? But this happened when I was in my relationship. Oh, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to cry. I really don't want to cry. This is just more of like a reflection type of thing. It's not something that I want to kind of get sad about, but I can't help it but get sad about it, honestly, because it is a part of my life. It's a part of my past. It's a part of an experience. But I did have my first pregnancy in my 20s. I was 25 when I first got pregnant for the first time. And I will never forget, you guys. Let me just tell you the story really quickly. I wasn't feeling well, and I was coming home one day, and I had to do a interview. I was getting ready to do an interview for a cosmetic company. It was NYX. If you guys know NYX, I was still working at MAC at this time, but this was in, I want to say this was 2018. 2018, I was still working for MAC, you know, and I had been at a point where I was, you know, kind of just wanting to try something new. You know, I had been working with MAC for like 4 years now, and I was just like, you know, like, I'm ready to try something different. Like, I'm tired of MAC. MAC was starting to not become fun anymore because they were always pressuring us to sell. It was becoming more about sales than artistry, more about sales than anything for that matter, and it was starting to just not become fun anymore. And so I just was like, you know, maybe I'll try to work for a different company. So at this time, this particular day, I was coming home from work and I didn't feel well, and I was like, I knew I had a virtual interview online, and I had to report to that interview at like a specific time. And so I got home, I put my stuff down, and I had actually bought a pregnancy test because I was like, let me just try and take a pregnancy test. At this time, I was living with my significant other, the person I was in a relationship with. I was actually living with him, and we were living together. He wasn't home, and like I said, I was getting ready to start this interview and everything. And so why I did this, I don't know, but I took a pregnancy test right before the actual interview because I was just like, let me just get it out the way. Moving too fast, you know, really not thinking about it, not thinking about the what ifs. I didn't honestly expect it to be positive, but I took a pregnancy test and it was positive, and I was like, shook. I was like, oh snap, like what the, like I was like, are you sure? You know when you like take a pregnancy test and you be like, are you sure? Like, huh? Yeah, took a pregnancy test. I was like, oh shoot, like I don't know, like I don't know. I'm like, oh snap. And I had like 15 minutes. Time was ticking. 15 minutes to jump on this interview. And by the time, it wasn't a virtual interview. It was a phone interview. And the pregnancy test was positive. And I was just like, oh shoot. Like, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do right now. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm scared. Like, what the heck? I should take another one, but I don't have time. And I got on that interview and I was shook. I was not myself. I couldn't think. I couldn't get my thoughts together. I was nervous. I was like, my mind was not like, it was nowhere near prepared for an interview. It was just like, girl, you just found out you're pregnant. Like, you need to be doing something else and not on the phone with talking to somebody who could possibly be a job. Like, so the job didn't go well, and I ended up the interview didn't go well, and I know it didn't go well because it was through someone else, like a referral type of thing. And the feedback that she gave her, she basically said that like I seemed like I wasn't myself, and she didn't even know me. She's like, she's like, I think she seemed like she was distracted. She seemed like she wasn't herself. And I was like, yeah, because I had just found out I was pregnant. So basically, at that point, I was in a place where me and my boyfriend, we weren't in a good place. Me and my boyfriend at that time, we weren't in a good space. And work wasn't going well for me. That's why I was looking for a new job. Work wasn't going well for me. My relationship wasn't going well for me. I was like not in a good space. And so basically, I was kind of like hoping that things would change, being as though that I found out that I was pregnant. I was hoping that things would kind of like get better for us. Things would kind of change in our relationship, but it didn't. And it didn't. And it kind of like, it made me sad. And basically, you know, when I was talking to him about it and everything, and I told him, he kind of was like, he was just like, for real? Like, what? And I was just like, yeah. And I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I don't really know like what to do, blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, like basically when somebody, they don't really like say what it is that you think that they're going to say, but they don't give you a direct answer. They just kind of like, they'll say something without saying it, and that's kind of like what he did. And you know, he kind of like made me feel bad a little bit, like, well, you know, we're not doing good right now, like money isn't good, and it's a whole lot of other stuff that went into that relationship that I just don't want to get into right now. But like basically I had to get an abortion, and it was very traumatic for me. I had to get an abortion, and then after I got the abortion, basically like something else had happened shortly after, like maybe a month after that. Like I had some health issues that took place that really like made me feel even worse. It made me, and when I say feel worse, it made me feel worse like mentally, like was that the right thing to do? Because why would this happen if that wasn't what I was supposed to do? And to this day, I even think about it still, and I'm just like, wow, like why did I do that? Like, and then I realized, and I pray about it a lot, and I've just like, I prayed about it a lot because I realized like I have to forgive myself for that. And I also have to understand that timing yet again is everything, and that like just because you think that you want something, when you want it, you may not be ready for it, or your circumstances might not be, they may not be in the best alignment for it to happen the way that it's supposed to happen. Just because you think it's the time, it may not be the time. And if you, and it just, I think about it often, because I'm just like, you know, had I not, like, you know, maybe we would still be together. Like I think about all of these things, and I'm just like you can't think like that. Like you have to accept what is. You gotta just be okay with knowing that God has a plan for you, and whether you thought that that was the right thing for it to happen, everything is gonna happen when it's supposed to. And just because it didn't happen then, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen for you. And I also think about like how we were in a bad space in our relationship, and had I had a child at that time, it could have ultimately ruined things more than what they already were. I think about that a lot, honestly, and I'm not gonna say it's a regret, but it was a big lesson for me. And even now, because I have moments where I think about it, and at one point when I first did it, I wasn't ashamed of it. I wasn't guilty, because I knew where me and my boyfriend, like me and my ex, like I knew where we stood at that time. So I figured like this is probably what's best because of where we are in our relationship right now. And so I'm just like, but then I also think like, okay, like had I not got an abortion, like I would have never came to LA. I would have never experienced so many different things. I would have never had all of the experiences that I did while I was here. And that has been a huge part of my life. Like being out here only 3 years has been a huge part of my life, and it's been a huge part of my journey, and a huge part of my journey in my faith with God. Like, so I'm glad that it happened. Can I say that I'm completely like healed from it? No. But I have accepted it, and I'm still coping with the idea that like it happened, yes, but God has something better for me, and it's going to be in God's timing. It was a big lesson for me, and through that lesson I also learned like timing again is everything. And so I think that's one of my biggest lessons in my 20s, is just knowing like there's a time and a place for everything. And just because you think you may be ready for something, you may not be, but you have to accept that it's not that time. Like it's gonna come, and it's going, when it comes around again and you're ready for it and it's the time, it will happen regardless. Nothing or no one can stop what is when it's supposed to happen for you. And so once you accept that and you know that, you'll be okay. You'll be able to accept the idea of things happening for you and things not happening for you. I do think about it a lot, and I think about it more now that I'm older. I think because when it happened, I was younger, and so I knew that it wasn't a good time. But now that I'm older and I'm reflecting on, oh my God, I'm about to be 30 and I don't have kids and I don't have a marriage. I don't have a boy. I'm not even in a relationship. I don't have a house. I'm just getting started with my business, and like, and now I'm reflecting on it more and more. I catch myself, because when you go down that rabbit hole, you got to catch yourself before you go down too deep and you can't get yourself out of it. Because there's been times when I've thought myself into a bad mood, or I've thought myself into like a mini depression, because I'm just like, dang, like was that the right choice? And I reflect on it, and I reflect on like how now I want to have kids and I want to be in a relationship. And at that time, it's almost like, at that time I was kind of like, I feel like I wasn't being fair to my relationship at that time, because I kind of like wanted out. I was being selfish. I knew I wanted to move to LA, and I was just like I definitely loved him, and I like was serious about him and everything like that, but I was so focused on me. It was all about me being selfish, and me knowing that I wanted to do this, that, and this, and that, and this, and that, that I felt like I was being selfish, and I really wasn't giving all of myself to my relationship like I knew I should have. And so even now that I'm older and I reflect on like that, and if that was the right thing for me, like getting an abortion, I kind of feel bad, because I'm like, dang, like had I not, I would have that family that I wanted now. But I also have to give myself grace in knowing that like it wasn't the right time, and had I did that then, maybe something else may have happened because it wasn't the right time. So you just have to really be intentional, and you also have to just know that when it's the right time, nothing is going to stop it. I'm not going to say it was a regret, because it's not a regret, but it was a huge lesson for me in my 20s. I don't talk about it a lot, and I do make it known that like I want a family, I want a marriage, I want all of that. But you know, I believe that it will happen when it's supposed to. And that's another thing. That's why I was saying earlier, like, people, there's so much pressure on us in our early 20s to have all of these things, to have a career. By 25, you're supposed to be married, you're supposed to have kids, you're supposed to be established. And it's like, don't fall for that. Like, it's not true. It's just not. It's bullshit. Even like in today's age, in today's time, and with everything that we're experiencing, like this little recession, it's not even little, it's this recession that we're experiencing, inflation, everything that we're going through now. Can you imagine like being so young and trying to have all of your like all of that figured out at this young age, and like where our country and our economy is trash, don't put that pressure on yourself. So that's why I say, like, have fun, live, enjoy yourself, enjoy where you are, be in the moment, don't stress, don't focus so much on where you think you should be. Just worry about where you're going and accept what is. That's a huge lesson that I learned in my 20s. Once you understand that, you'll be able to enjoy and be in the moment a little bit more. Another thing that I kind of wish that like I would have done differently in my 20s is save money. Like, save money. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I've been saving money ever since I was 14 years old. Ever since I was 14, I've been saving money. I started my first job when I was 14 years old. I was working at a library, and from there I started saving money immediately. So I've been saving money since I started working at age 14. But in my early 20s, when I didn't have as much and as many responsibilities, knowing what I know now, I would have saved a lot more. It's easier to save when you're at home. You're living at home. You don't have as much responsibilities. You don't have rent to pay. You don't have a lot of obligations that require your time to make money. It's so much easier to save money. So I wish that that was something that I would have done differently. And like I've said before, I've always been pretty good with my money. Like, money hasn't really ever been like an issue for me. I've been able to save money and be okay. And I hadn't had to touch my savings, honestly, until the pandemic. I hadn't had to, not even the pandemic. I was saving money in the pandemic. I didn't have to touch my money until after the pandemic, honestly. So I didn't have to touch my savings. And this is from like my whole, up until age 14 until age 27. I didn't have to touch my savings. And so that's something I just wish I would have kind of did a little bit differently. Thinking about it now, I'm like, I wish that I would have saved a little bit more money. Like, I wish I would have saved money while I wasn't, like, while I was at home. So that is like a huge, if you don't get anything, write this down. If you don't get anything from this video, save money. Save your money. It's harder now to save money than I feel like it has ever been in my life. For me, it's harder for me to save money now more than ever. But I wish that while I was at home, I would have been able to, I would have been taking that more seriously. I would have saved more money, because it's easier to save money when you don't have as many responsibilities. So that's something I kind of wish that I would have did differently. And I advise you, if you're like in your younger 20s, 23, 22, 21, 19, save. Start saving. Like, it's pivotal. Because another thing that I've learned is, like, nothing stays the same. You see, now we're at, like, now we're in 2023, and like everything is, like, the gas, everything, groceries, everything has increased. You never know where things are going to go and how things are going to change in your life. So it's always good to prepare now as opposed to when it starts to happen. So that's why I'm saying, like, save your money while you can. Save your money now and establish your credit. Like, establish your credit. Save your money if you can. If you don't have credit, you need to do something to get credit. You need to do something where you can start building your credit. Like, that's something we didn't learn in school, which is crazy to me. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why didn't we learn about that in school? Like, we didn't learn anything about credit. We didn't learn about saving. Well, we did learn, but not as much as I know we should have learned. Like, why didn't we learn about this? But no, you need to save your money. You need to build your credit. Point blank, period. If you don't have credit, you need to get like a little, I don't know, I'm not gonna give like that type of advice, but I'm just gonna say, like, save money and build your credit. Like, it's very important, especially in your early 20s, late 20s, middle 20s. Save, build your credit. Like, it's going to save you. It's going to literally save your ass. Credit is like your life insurance. Like, your credit is like your insurance on your investments, if that makes sense. Literally, yeah. Credit is like your insurance on your life investments, your house, your cars, your businesses, like whatever it is that you're investing in. Your credit is really going to be the thing that make or break you. So you got to make sure it's in order. You got to make sure it's clean. Make sure your background is good. Like, don't be out here getting in trouble and doing stuff that just make smart decisions. Like, these are things that we know, but sometimes we don't We don't like take heed to that advice until it's too late. Your 20s is for you to make mistakes. Like, it's okay. Like, make mistakes. I feel like your 20s, like, nobody tells you, but your 20s is for you to legit, like, mess up, make mistakes. It's kind of like, it's not really serious. It's not that serious. I feel like it is, but it's not that serious. Like, it's more so for you to start building. It's more of like your play area. Like, have fun, live a little, build, save, establish yourself, figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. If you're in a relationship, like, make sure that this is your person. Don't waste your time on no one who may or may not be for you. Definitely. Don't give yourself to anybody who is not for you and you know they not. If you're in a toxic relationship, like, get rid of it. It's not, because as you get older, the damage from that relationship carries on into other relationships. Like, whether it be physical, mental, like, you need to heal. Especially if you don't have kids, I feel like that's the time for you to be like really having fun, figuring out who you are, establishing yourself in your career, whatever it is that you want to do it then. Like, do it in your 20s. If you have the money to do it in your 20s. If you can't, then it's no pressure. Like, don't put that pressure on yourself. I feel like it's cool. 20s is cool for you to, like, it's like your trial period. Like, it's time for you to have fun, loosen up, enjoy life, but also be responsible. Like, do it in a way where you're being responsible. Don't make, like, rush decisions. Don't do a lot of, like, don't mess up your credit. That's the main thing I think that, like, that gets people. Like, don't mess up your credit. Save your money. Enjoy yourself. Live. Travel. Go where it is you want to go. Word of advice, you guys, honestly. And I say this like in the most humblest way, but don't work too hard. That's something that I've learned, and that's something that that's one of my biggest lessons as well, because like I said, I have been working since I was 14 years old, and I feel like the way that this country the way that this country makes it seem, it's almost like you have to work, you have to work hard, work hard, work hard, and you'll have everything you want. And that's not necessarily true. Yes, if you work hard, you will get blessed. Like I said, you'll get blessed. But I don't feel like you should work yourself, like don't work yourself too much. Like, have a life, have a social life. You need to have that balance. Work-life balance is very important in your 20s, because you don't want to look back and then all you have done is worked. Like, you don't have no memories to reflect on. You don't remember nothing because all you did was work. Literally, I was working the night of my prom. I didn't go to my prom because I was working. And this isn't in my 20s, but it's just something that I thought about. I'm just like, something that I'm going to definitely not do in my 30s is work hard for anyone but myself. And I say this humbly, like I'm saying this in the most humblest way that I can right now. Like, I'm not going to work hard for anyone but myself, because at the end of the day, if you're not saving your money, if you're working hard, like you're working just to be working and paying bills, like, what? No, don't work yourself hard to where you working and you just paying bills and that's it. If you're gonna work hard, let it be for a reason. For example, every time I'm getting ready to go on vacation, I work my ass off, and I'll work overtime because I'm saving up to go on vacation. It's for a reason. It's temporary. It's not just me working, and I'm missing out on people's birthdays. I'm missing out on family events. I'm missing out on like important life events that are happening, and I'm just not there because I'm working. Like, no, that makes no sense. And I've done that, and mostly in my early 20s, especially working in retail. Like, it's so hard to have a work-life balance working in retail. And so that's something I just would say, like, if you have any type of control over your work life, definitely don't overwork yourself. Be present in your family's lives, your friends' lives, and just have a social life. Like, do stuff. Don't work, go home, pay bills. Like, that is toxic. You're gonna regret it, especially when you get in your 30s. I'm not even 30 yet. But you're gonna regret it. You're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, dang, like I worked so hard. I don't have a savings. I don't have credit. I just worked and paid bills and went home. Like, what? No, at least if you working hard, let it be for a reason. Like, you went on vacation, you have a house, you have a car, like you invested it. You invested that time and that money that you worked so hard for into something. But if you're just working hard for no reason, just to make like or earn a living, then you're gonna regret it. Be responsible, obviously, like pay your bills and stuff and do what you gotta do, but make it make sense. Like if it doesn't make sense, then you're gonna regret it. And so that's why I say, like, don't overwork yourself. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, because this is a time where you are so young and you have so many possibilities, so many opportunities to be who you want, to do what you want, to go where you want. And especially if you don't have kids. If you're single and you don't have kids, oh yeah, you need to go off. Like, for real. You could be saving, you could be doing whatever, building your business, doing whatever it is that you know you want to be doing, traveling the world. Like, for me, I wish that was something I would have done a lot more of, is traveling. Like, traveling. And I even started working for the airlines because I knew I wanted to travel. But around that time, again, the pandemic had happened, so I wasn't able to travel. And then I got rid of that job. So, but I was just to say, like, don't work hard unless it's for a good reason. Because you're gonna look up and your whole life you're gonna be working. Like, don't miss out on like stuff that's important because all you did was work. There's a lot that I've done in my 20s where I'm not proud of. Like, there's a lot that I've done in my 20s that I'm not proud of, but I learned. That's the most important thing. You do something wrong, you mess up, it's okay. Like, at least you learn what you learned. You know not to do it anymore, or you know how to do it differently next time so that you don't do it the same way that you did. There's been a lot of things, honestly, that I've done that I'm not proud of. When I was 23, I actually got into a car accident and I totaled my car. And that was something that I'm not proud of. Now, granted, things like that happen all the time. However, I was being very irresponsible. I had just got home from Vegas 2 days later. Not even 2 days. I got home from Vegas and I was really tired, y'all. I was really tired. And I was on my way home and I was smoking, honestly. And I got into a car accident. It was really bad. It was like a 2-3 car accident. And I was speeding. And I was smoking. It wasn't my fault, okay? It wasn't my fault. However, I feel like it could have been avoided had I not been smoking and being irresponsible. And so, I want to see what this do. But yeah, I had just got home from Vegas, and literally the next night, I went back to work. And I was on my way home from work the next night. And I got into a car accident and I totaled my car. And this was a new car. I had this car maybe 3 months. And I completely totaled the car and I felt like, what the heck? And even though it wasn't my fault, I still was just like, that was dumb. Like, why were you smoking? Yeah. Not something I'm proud of, but it happened. It is what it is. Another thing that I did dumb in my 20s. What else have I done I'm not proud of? You know, there's a lot that I've done that I'm not proud of. And then there's a lot that I have done that I am really proud of, that I'm glad that I did, that I'm glad that I took that chance and I did that and I took a leap of faith and I, you know, just went after my vision. Have fun, be responsible, save your money, build your credit. Don't hold on to things or people who you know aren't good for you. Like, that's another thing. Like, don't hold on to people, because people can be here today and gone tomorrow. And you don't want to lose too much of yourself in people who are only temporary or they're only meant for a season. Go after your dreams. Make goals for yourself. Because if you're not making goals, you're not growing, you're not progressing, you're not doing anything. If you're just living day to day, you're not going to be growing. You're only existing, you're not living. So you have to make goals. You have to go after the things that you know you want to do. Don't just exist, but live. And live in a way where if you die tomorrow, you'll be proud of everything that you have done in your life. My 20s have been absolutely amazing. I cannot complain. I would just say, honestly, y'all, if you're in your 20s, your early 20s, your late 20s, your middle 20s, wherever you are, enjoy where you are. Don't don't rush to get to wherever you're going. Just know that everything is going to fall in place for you at the right time, okay? At the right time, everything will fall in place. Just be gentle with yourself, make goals, and try to do your best to become the best you that you can. Learn from your mistakes and just try to have fun and enjoy yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and definitely don't compare yourself. I've learned a lot in my 20s, and I really can say that it's been a good time for me. I'm super excited for my 30s and what's to come in this new chapter of my life. And I just want to say thank you guys to everyone who has subscribed to my channel, who has been with me since day one, and who has watched me grow and develop on my channel and throughout my whole entire journey, period. And I'm super excited to continue on and start a new chapter. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and drop your comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. My biggest lesson that I learned in my 20s was to use my time wisely. Definitely have better time management, and y'all know, if you've been following me for a while, you know that that's kind of been like a goal of mine. It's just getting better with my time management. So and just making better use of my time. We get into this habit where we think that we have so much time, and before we know it, 10 years have flown by. Hello, 20 to 30 flew by, like legit flew by. And in that time, so much has happened. I've accomplished so much. I'm so proud of myself. But there is times that I think, and I'm just like, you could have been so much further had you used your time a little bit more wisely and planned a little bit more. So I think my biggest lessons in my 20s have just been using my time more wisely, being patient, and just allowing things to happen when they're supposed to, and not trying to force things to happen when they're not supposed to, because I know that everything is going to happen the way that it's supposed to happen at the right time. And once you grasp that idea, you'll start to be able to, it's almost like you experience like a sense of freedom, because you don't feel like you have that pressure on you of trying to be and do and have all of these things by a certain age or a certain timeline based on what everyone else is saying that you should have, or everyone else's standards. Like, you won't care, because you know that in your perfect divine aligned time, you will have the things that you are supposed to have. You'll be where you're supposed to be. You'll be married, you'll have a house, you'll have a car, you'll, everything that you want, your career, your job, everything, you'll have all of that, everything when it's time. And so I think that's been my biggest lesson in my 20s. And my advice, again, honestly, I think just like my main advice is just like, just stay focused, have fun, enjoy it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself to your peers. Don't compare yourself to other people who you went to school with or you grew up with. Be okay with the idea of letting people go, because you have to understand that everyone is in different places in their lives. And as you grow and develop and become who you're supposed to be, and you are not going to be the same person that you once was. So you're going to have to become comfortable with the idea that not everybody can come with you. Like, people that you were once friends with when you were 22, when you turn 28, 29, you're not that same person anymore. You're not going to probably do the same things that you once did. You're not going to talk to the same people. So you have to become comfortable with the idea that those people may not be able, they may not be in your life at that age as you get older and as you start to grow and develop, because you're no longer who you once were. And sometimes that can be pretty hard to accept, because you want everybody to come with you. I know for me, one of my best friends in my early 20s, like when I worked at Mac, she was one of my best friends, like one of like my like adulthood best friends. So it's funny, because when I moved to LA, she had actually moved to LA as well. And it's crazy, like ever since I moved here, I haven't seen her. We haven't hung out, we barely speak. it's crazy. And so honestly, I just was like, well, this seems like it almost got to a point where it's like it feels forced when you're trying to like arrange for it to go out and do stuff or meet. So I was just like, I'm just accepting the fact that we are just no longer like fit to be in each other's lives. It's okay. We outgrew the friendship. It's fine. It's time to move forward. And so that was kind of hard for me, especially because of everything that I was going through and experiencing when I like first got out here. I knowing that she was here, that's what I meant when I was saying like it emotionally sometimes it's hard to not have those people who you once did because you expect that they're going to still be around, and they're not always going to be there. And so I think that was the hardest thing for me. It's just like not everybody who's with you is riding for you. So once you just got to know that like not everybody who with you is riding for you. And I feel like in those times I really needed someone to like emotionally be there for me, and they weren't. And all I really wanted was just to vent and just to talk and just to get advice. Like I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want like anything from you or from her at that time. It was just more so just like being a friend. And once you see like you'll see the people who just they're gonna just disappear. Time usually will give you that. Time and distance will give you, it will reveal a lot. Time and distance will reveal a whole lot about people, the people that you think are your friends. So it's been cool. It's been I can't even believe it, honestly. I'm sitting here reflecting. I'm just like, wow, like I've experienced so much. I've experienced so much, and it's been good. It's been chill. But yeah, we'll see. I'm super excited for this next chapter. This next chapter or whatever.